Hello and welcome back to another edition of the Creamsicle Chronicle podcast. My name is JT Olson. With me is my co-host Garrett Ballard. Garrett, how are you before I die?
I'm doing good. Sounds like you're not right now. I am, for anyone watching live, I have to be audio only just due to some moving difficulties, but that's just what happens sometimes. We'll be back soon with Cam, but as always, we're happy to be here talking some draft.
Maybe I should be visual only. Like you can do all the talking and I'll just stand here and do hand gestures. We
Yeah,
got this.
yeah. I talk for an hour straight, just me. That'd be a great one.
Some would say it would be an upgrade.
Oh, come on now.
But we do have a lot to talk about.
Yeah.
There's been some, not news necessarily, but there's been a lot of things as we continue towards draft season. And the first one that was announced today was there was another top 30 visit announced. Garrett, did you see that?
I did. It's a big one too.
Yes. Oregon center Jackson Powers Johnson has met with the Bucks per Ryan Fowler. This is the one we've talked about a lot. He's my inside offensive lineman number 2, only behind Troy Fontenot. Definitely center one by a decent margin over Graham Barton. I think in a perfect world, he's probably my top choice for the Bucks.
Yeah, me too. He's my IOL one, just because I have Fontenot as a tackle first. But I'm with you. I think this is by far the best center in the draft, and I think it's someone that the Bucks have circled. Jason Licht spoke about what he say. There are how many names did he say that they could realistically see be there at 26?
He said they're kind of circling 5 to 7 names.
That's it, 5 to 7. They are honing in on 5 to 7 names that they like that could realistically be there at 26, and this, without a doubt in my mind, is one of them.
Yeah, and I think he would be, of those 5 to 7, probably these, just depending on who you think those 5 to 7 guys are, one of the top 2 options.
I'm with you 100%.
Let's talk about that a little, though. Jason Licht had a pre-draft press conference. He met with the media. He said a lot of really good things. But that one was the big quote that stood out to me.
Yeah.
I'm working on an article right now highlighting who I think those 7 players might be. But let's workshop it a little bit. Who do you think those 5 to 7 players are that they're kind of highlighting as guys they think will be there at 26 and they could be choosing from?
So I'm going to give you 6 names, just right smack dab in the middle of that 5 to 7.
Perfect.
So 1, we just said it, Jackson Powers Johnson. Really, really good player. We've talked about him a lot. I think 2 is going to be Graham Barton. I think he is going to be in that list. 3 is going to be Chop Robinson, another guy we've talked about at length. 4, I'm going to throw Laiatu Latu in there, who, again, we've talked about a lot. He's seemingly falling down a little bit more than where people originally saw him. 5 is going to be, I'm going to say Jared Verse, another edge rusher.
Oh, okay.
I don't know why. I just got a gut feeling. It's one of those things that I can't really explain. And then 6 is going to be a guy that we're going to talk about tonight in Cooper DeJean, who I think is potentially the best fit out of any DB in this draft for what the Bucks need back there.
Yeah, I think he is a great fit, and he made my list as well. I had 5 of the same 6 you did.
Okay. Is Jared Verse the odd man out?
He is, just because I don't think he'll be there.
Yeah, that's for sure. The way I see it is there are these edge rushers that are kind of falling, and if one of them, I think one of them will and one of them won't. And I think that's just Chop Robinson's range. So I'm speaking Latu and Verse. Not for any fault of their own, but the draft is weird sometimes.
It is weird. Sometimes boards just break a certain way and good players slip further than they should.
Exactly.
And it always seems like they fall to the Baltimore Ravens because they always just stick and pick a great player who shouldn't be there.
Yeah.
But maybe that can be the Bucks this year.
That'd be nice.
What? We got a shot. We're ahead of the Ravens. We could do it.
Yeah, unless they trade. But
So yeah, I want to echo Jackson Powers Johnson, Graham Barton, Chop Robinson, Leatu Latu, and Cooper DeJean. I think those 5 are absolutely highlighted on the board. The 2 I would add are defensive linemen. One is Johnny Newton, the defensive tackle from Illinois.
For sure.
We've talked about it at length. It seems like the world has Byron Murphy as defensive tackle 1.
Right.
And every projection says he's going to go higher than Johnny Newton, who some people project to go in the 2nd round.
Right.
I think that's absurd. But
I concur.
If that is the case, that's that perfect, the NFL's lost, the Bucs gain kind of scenario.
Please bring him home.
The other guy is another defensive lineman, and it's not Byron Murphy because I'm lower on him, and I think he'll be gone by then. But it's Braden Fisk, defensive tackle from Florida State. So shout out to our Florida State fans.
26?
I think he's going to go 1st round. I do.
Man, I don't see it. I think that the size limitations, I don't buy it.
I mean, if you take away arm length, what is there not to like about it?
Well, you can't do that.
I know you can't, but what if I did?
Well,
yeah, he's out of this world athletic.
Sure.
Great hand usage.
If he had longer arms and was taller, sure.
Yeah, but we're talking about the same team that drafted a 6-foot, 30-inch arm defensive tackle last year.
You're right, but I don't think they're going to do that 2 drafts in a row in the 1st round.
I think they could.
That's I don't buy it. I don't know.
He could be that 5 tech. Cansey could be 3 tech. You can move them both around. You can stunt with both of them. I can see it. If not to the Bucs, I think Arizona, Detroit, Baltimore, they're all prime landing spots for him.
I don't buy it. I don't buy it. If he's of those 7 names that you gave, he's 7th by a wide margin for me. By a wide margin.
I don't think he'd be 7th. I don't think he'd be 7th for me.
Graham Barton would be 7 for you.
Him and Chop. So I'd probably have Fisk 5th.
I think I would like Chop more than Fisk. I don't know. It's a really, I criticized the Cansey pick last year. It's just not a projectable profile consistently.
It's one of those ones that truly trust the tape because the tape is that good. But, the measurables, just arm length, and that matters for a guy who's going to go up against tackles. They're 34, 36-inch arms. So 32, that's a big disadvantage.
Right.
But, I mean, we said it with Chop Robinson. He has 0-inch arms. He's just a torso rushing the passer.
Right. And, I mean, Cansey's arms are smaller. Like, Cansey is not a big guy.
30-inch arms.
Yeah. So I get you can see it. I don't buy it. I don't think I think the tape is good. I don't think it's good enough for a 1st round pick also.
But he falls into that Jason Licht profile.
Man, I don't see it. I don't know.
The athletic traits. He was a Senior Bowl guy. The character is fantastic. Work ethic, all those kind of things. Blue collar, tough. He by every definition is a Jason Licht guy. It's just the arm length.
I think all of those guys are though. That's the issue. And I just think
I don't disagree. Maybe Chop. I don't know if he's a Jason Licht guy.
He'd be the one that's like the least Jason Licht guy. But I just think our difference is you're way higher on his tape than I am. I think he's a good player, but I think he's like a firmly entrenched in the middle of day 2 guy for me.
And don't get me wrong, that would be a little bit of a reach on my board. I think I have him early mid-30s. I think he's like 30. I can check right now. I've got my board.
But it's not so bad that you are like, okay, this is way too high on your board.
Right. So he's 35 on my board right now before my recheck. Okay. So it would be a little bit of a reach, but just because I think he's a Jason Licht kind of guy, he fits that profile, I could see them taking him.
Sure. Okay. We've talked about defensive linemen for too long now. We need to talk about other positions.
Yes, so we are focusing on the back 7 tonight. We're going corner, safety, and linebacker. Not the pass rushing kind, but the off-ball kind.
Yes, exactly. Again, it's going to be similar to the quarterback, tight end, wide receiver day we did, where we're going to focus a bit heavier on the better class and shrink the lesser classes a little bit. So we're going to give 5 and 5 of the safeties and linebackers, and we're going to give 8 corners because that class is outstanding this year.
Yeah, and even finding 5 for some of these players was rough.
Yeah, it's tough. They're really not good classes.
Yeah, safety and linebacker. It's a good year not to need one.
Yeah, you got that right.
So we'll touch on some of the guys because the Bucs could be in the market for a depth piece at both positions, so we don't want to totally gloss over it.
Right.
But this is going to be more corner heavy because I think that's where they're going to be looking.
Yep, I'm with you.
Cool. So let's start closer to the ball. Let's start with linebackers. Do you want to go 1 down or 5 up?
Let's do 5 up.
Okay.
5 to 1.
So 5 to 1. Who was your 5th ranked linebacker for the Bucs?
I'm on the wrong page. My 5th ranked linebacker is Marist Liufau from Notre Dame. So,
all right, sell me on him.
Yeah. I think he has that kind of it's kind of funny because he reminds me of skill set of Devin White, which is just attack downhill, right? But you're not drafting him in the top 5, and it'd be for a depth piece, so you can be okay with it. Like, he's a really, really aggressive downhill guy. He hits hard. His zone ability and his coverage ability is still growing, but that's okay. It can, but I like what he does against the run and as a blitzer. So it's enough for me to say, hey, I see something here to like.
Yeah, I mean, I think the Bucs are really going to be looking for just a skill set,
Right?
Not a star, not a stud, but hey, if you've got X, Y, and Z that you can do well, that's what we want you for. Come in, do those things, be part of a rotation, be a piece.
Right. Yeah, I think he's like a top 100 guy, barely, probably. So that's kind of where I see him.
All right. My number 5 linebacker sounds like he's kind of a similar mold.
Sure.
I'd call him an attack linebacker. He's always attacking forward. He's blitzing. He's, sideline to sideline, athletic.
Right.
And that's Edgerrin Cooper.
Yep. He's my 4.
Okay. So, yeah, very similar mold. He would kind of fill that Devin White void. You want to blitz him. You want him to be moving forward. He has the athleticism to be a all-around linebacker. He doesn't have the skill set yet. He's still developing parts of that game.
Yeah, there's a lot of talk for him going really high that I'm not on board with.
Yeah, I've seen him most commonly mocked as linebacker 1 off the board.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy.
Yeah, it's not for me, and probably not for most Bucs fans, just because we just went through the Devin White experience.
Yeah.
But if you just use him as just that one specific skill set, just attack. Oh, it's a passing down. He's either blitzing or he's off the field.
Yep, exactly.
Game on. Appreciate your comment. I see we take constructive criticism. I see you.
I'm glad you came back and checked it out. I told them before the show, I was like, hey, I like your background a lot more. You don't really blend in with the flag that we got. So that's funny.
All right. And you said Cooper was your number 4?
Cooper was my 4, yeah.
All right. Anything you'd add to what I said about him there?
Not really. He's just pretty raw. I like the traits and the upside, but I think that's a bit far away.
Yeah. I wouldn't be mad if he was the 4th round pick.
Right.
But that's kind of where the conversation starts for me.
Yes, I'm 100% with you. So what? My number 3 now, right?
I can give my number 4.
Oh my gosh, yes. Sorry if you hear a plane. I live close to an airport.
All right. So you started with a difficult name. I'm gonna try and up you here. My next linebacker is Edifon Ulofosho. Ulofosio?
Yeah, from
Did I
Washington.
get? Yeah, from Washington.
Yeah.
Really was pleasantly surprised watching him. He's super light on his feet. He's a really good form tackler. He wraps up. He brings his man down. He feels like he's always in control.
Right.
I don't know if his instincts are great. It feels like he gets washed away in the muck a lot of times. Kind of gets lost in traffic, which is just a very vital skill for a linebacker to be able to navigate traffic and get to the ball carrier.
Yeah.
I think that's what makes Levante an elite linebacker. He just fires through gaps and he always finds space. And that's an underrated skill set that most players don't have. And I don't want to be too hard on this, prospect for not having that developed, but it's one of those things I think you either have it or you don't. And I don't see those instincts with him yet.
I didn't get the chance to watch him yet. I had a busy, day job week, but that'll be one, especially since he's on your list, that will be someone I watch soon, and we can chat about him in the future.
Yeah, check him out. He was a surprisingly good athlete.
Okay.
I thought he was a good athlete on film, really light on his feet. I didn't think he was a super athlete, but he tested with a 9.55 RAS, so definitely in the upper echelon of linebackers.
Yeah, I think his jumps were like otherworldly from what I remember. Like he jumps like 38 in the vert or something crazy.
39 and a half on the vert and 10 broad.
Yeah, that's nuts. 10 flat? I thought it was bigger than that.
10-8.
Yeah. So pretty good athlete, pretty explosive guy, and he ran really well too.
4.56. So
yeah, that's no joke. That's
receivers didn't run that fast. Keon Coleman isn't that fast.
Yeah, no, don't do Keon Coleman like that. Come on now.
I'm just saying you can put this guy on Jalen Polk and he can run step for step with him.
Yeah, he's a good athlete. So that'll definitely be one I check out, especially if he's like. Would you say in comparison to someone like Edgerrin Cooper, is he a bit more developed?
Yeah, he's a more well-rounded linebacker. You can play him in coverage. You can.
Okay.
I don't think he's quite the blitzer.
Okay.
But if you're looking for just a 3-down guy who can do a little bit of everything,
sure,
and you can depend on him, I think.
Okay.
This guy, I won't even try and butcher his name again. Edifon is a better fit for that.
Okay. Yeah, I'm excited to check him out then. That's definitely going to be one I look at. Okay. My three is Cedric Gray from North Carolina. Really good player. Pretty much. I don't think he's getting nearly the respect he should be. He was a Senior Bowl guy, correct?
I think he was. I'm not 100% sure on that.
And I feel like the Bucs hosted a meeting with him also. Am I correct?
Yes, that I believe.
Yeah. So this is clearly someone that the Bucs like. When you talk about sideline to sideline, this guy's got it. He can move. He tests it. It shows up on the tape. It shows up in the testing. Like how do I say it? When you need a guy who can just cover space and be where he needs to be, Cedric Gray is I think probably your guy. He reads his keys. He does well. He's I think one thing that I saw like all the time, this dude does not fall for a run fake. Like he'll see the mesh point and he just backs up. He's like, I don't even care. He'll get picks. It's very impressive. I don't think Cedric Gray is getting nearly the love he should. He's a good blitzer as well. Violent, aggressive guy. So shout out Cedric Gray. He's really good.
Yeah, I would say that there's definitely a tier jump between 4 and 5 and 1, 2, 3. I think there's a wide gap between those two tiers.
Yeah.
I have Cedric Gray in my top 3. He's a little bit higher.
I know you're a big fan of him, so
yes. With transparency, he's my top-rated linebacker.
Hey, look at that. He's really good. Yeah. So that's not a shocking one. Like I said, I don't think this linebacker class is great. I don't have any round 1 guys. So this is like these top three are all probably within like 25 picks of each other.
Yeah, I'm trying to see where I have him on my board. So he's in my top 50.
Okay, yeah, that's correct. I'd say for my top guy.
Yeah, I've got him at 47. My number 2 is at 48, and my number 3 is at 52. So they're all very closely ranked.
Really close. Yeah. All right, who is your number 3?
My number 3 is probably your number 1, actually.
Is it Junior Colson?
It is Junior Colson.
Yeah. So we just flipped we probably have the same number 2 then.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I really like Colson. Big body linebacker, but he doesn't move like a big body linebacker.
Yeah.
For his size, he's incredibly fluid. He's very smart. He's always in a good position. The only thing holds me up just a little bit with him compared to the other two guys is it always comes with the caveat for his size. Like, he moves well. I don't want to sell it like he doesn't move well. And when you talk about a guy who's 245, 250, he moves really, really well. But compared to a guy like Cedric Gray just moves really, really well, and there's no caveat. So, it's more that Levante David mold that I favor in a linebacker. Fast, coverage. That's kind of where the modern linebacker is at. You look at a guy like Fred Warner; he's a little bit smaller, but just incredible coverage linebacker. Quicker than most linebackers, even at his size. So that's more the mold I favor. And Colson, he's more big body. I wouldn't call him a throwback thumper like a KJ Britt because he's so much more fluid and fast than that.
Right.
But he just lacks a little bit of quickness compared to those top two guys.
Right. Yeah, I am super high on his instincts and his intelligence and his football IQ. I think he's a very, very smart player, and I think it shows up on tape pretty frequently.
Yeah. All right, so you want to talk a little bit about Junior Colson other than the things I kind of touched on? I know he's your number 1, so.
Yeah, I hear what you're saying with the athleticism. That's definitely it's fine. Like you said, it's good for his size. There is that for his size thing. That's definitely true. I don't think he ran in pre-draft testing, so that's always going to be that question mark. But I think his play speed is going to be fine. Like I said, I think he thrives in using his pre-snap recognition and intelligence and just play recognition to really take his game to the next level. So I don't think he's going to need to rely on athleticism as much as some other linebackers who need to use it to make up for some of their deficiencies. Because this guy, I think, makes up for his lack of elite end athleticism with his intelligence. So that's kind of where I stand.
Yeah, and I don't disagree with any of that.
Yeah.
He didn't test it at all. No jumps, no shuttles, no
Yeah, it's a bummer.
Yeah. But he did weigh in. He was 6'2", 238. So trimmer than he was listed at Michigan. And
yeah, that's the trend.
We could have seen him run for that.
Yeah, that's the trend, though.
So that's just one of those things. We just kind of have to go based on tape. Yep. Full trust our eyes, which, is the good process anyway. The combine should just back up what you see on tape.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
good, not great athlete, even at his size.
Yeah, I think he's a fine athlete, but that's not his calling card anyway. So
let's talk about our consensus number 2 then.
Yeah. Peyton Wilson from NC State.
I had Michael Barrett.
Did you really?
I'm just kidding. I
was going to say, that would have been really funny. I do like Michael Barrett, though. He's pretty good.
Actually, I love him for the Bucks as a 6th-round pick, yeah.
Yeah, definitely a day 3 guy. But, yeah, Peyton Wilson, lot of injury red flags, but I've, read things that he's been cleared. Freak athlete, really good in coverage, too. The NC State linebacker coach has done a great job developing some dudes over there. And Peyton Wilson is the one. He's a Butkus Award winner. Great blitzer as well. In terms of what you're looking for in a linebacker, it's your eyes are going to go to Peyton Wilson for sure. I just think his ceiling might be a bit capped.
Yeah, you talk about great athlete, 9.88 RAS, so 99th percentile of athlete.
Right.
He ran a 4.43 in the 40.
Yeah. And I said, his ceiling's capped. I don't mean that in an athleticism way. I just mean that in like, I think he's already a very good player. Like, how much more can he build on? You know what I mean?
Yeah, and especially with his off-field stuff, his medicals, I think he's had some. Don't quote me on this, but I think there's been like an arrest or I think there was like a character issue in his past.
I was not aware of that.
I might be mistaken.
Okay.
But I thought there was. But definitely the medicals are a red flag because hurt players typically stay hurt.
Yeah. And I know, like, yeah, it's very, I don't like the term injury prone. I don't think that's a good descriptor of what injuries, how they work. But this guy is, unfortunately. Like, he's been hurt, I think, all but really last year, or in the year he won the butt kiss, correct?
The year he was injured? I mean, he's been injured like 3 years. I mean, it's
No,
been
that's
shoulder,
what I'm saying.
it's been...
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, going back to high school, he's had like 4 significant injuries, I think.
Yeah, it's been bad. So there's just a lot of forces working against him because other than that, I think he's a very, very fun and exciting player.
Okay, so just to follow up on the arrest thing, I think drinking underage, injury to personal property, impeding traffic, and 2 counts of resisting arrest.
Okay, so there's definitely some off-the-field concerns.
Yeah, and that was 2019, so that was a long time ago. I'm sure he's matured since then. It's not, a college student drinking underage obviously isn't a huge deal.
Right.
But it's there. It's out there. It's not ideal, but
I mean, it's not, and obviously it's a case-by-case basis, but especially with how Tavondre Sweat has handled his pre-draft process, and there were questions about his character and what just happened a couple weeks ago. Teams definitely might take notice.
Yeah, teams care a lot more who he is now than who he was 5 years ago.
Exactly.
So, I mean, that certainly wouldn't take him off my board by any means. The injuries, might. Someone smarter than me would have to tell me if that would, be a good decision or not. But
and another thing to remember is if you love Peyton Wilson and you're like, man, this guy would be so good on my team, and say your team brought him in for a visit, they give all the guys they bring in on visits physicals, right? If you get that physical done by that team doctor and it doesn't pass, you're probably not going to get drafted to that team. So even if a doctor says you're good, if their doctor doesn't, probably not going to happen.
Right. So that's my only hang up. In terms of on the field, yeah, I'd be very happy if he was a Buck.
Yeah, 100%. Is that kind of it for linebackers? Because we talked about.
Yeah.
Do you want to talk about Cedric Gray at all more?
Oh, I mean, I think you said it. Just extremely fast. He, in terms of prototype, he's that Levante David prototype I'd mentioned. And not to say he's going to be Levante David because no one's Levante David.
Right.
But he's a little bit smaller, super fast, really good tackler, has all the makings of a good coverage linebacker, which is what really gravitates to me. Because you look at what the Bucks have. Levante's obviously great. KJ Britt, he is much better than he was 2 years ago, but he's still more of a run stuffer.
Yeah.
So I'd prefer the Bucks if they're going to target a linebacker, it'd be someone who can be really good in coverage. And I think of all of those guys, Gray is that guy.
I'm with you. And I also like in the NFL, like the meetings that they had, they interviewed Todd Bowles, asked him about KJ Britt, and he was like, yeah, man, he's slow. Pretty much just came out and said it. Like, he didn't say it like that, but it was definitely translated that way after the quotes got circulated into the media. But yeah, I thought that was funny. I just had to mention that.
Also worth mentioning, Buccaneers had 3 formal interviews at the Combine with linebackers.
Yeah.
One was some Nathaniel Watson from Mississippi State.
Yep.
The other 2 were each of our linebacker 1. Junior Colson, Cedric Gray.
Look at that, man. Look at that. We picked the good ones.
We're right there. See, we know this team, or do we know this team?
I think we know this team, JT.
All right, so I say that, but I have no idea what they're going to look at in terms of safety. So let's go there next.
Yeah.
I'm going to let you go first because I hate the safety class.
Oh, God, me too. I like a couple guys, but it's definitely not my favorite. I think my top guy is Jaden Hicks from Washington State. I think he's a good 3-level safety. You can put him in the box, you can put him in the slot, in the zone, and then you can play him out deep. I don't think you want to play him deep all the time. I think he's better downhill. I think he's a pretty strong dude. But I mean, of what we get, I think he's probably the best.
Man, I've heard a lot of good things. A lot of people I respect really like Javon Hicks.
Yeah.
I could not get into his tape. I was not feeling it.
Sure. It's Jaden, by the way.
Oh, Jaden.
Jaden Hicks.
I don't know why I have Javon. Washington State?
Yeah.
Okay, so I just wrote Javon like an idiot.
That's all right.
But
you probably
Yeah.
meant Javon Bullard from Georgia.
I have him on here. Did I put Jaden instead? Nope. I have Javon Bullard and Javon Hicks.
Yeah, might have just been a
spelled differently even. I don't even know what I was doing.
Sure. All right.
But I spelled Javon with a J-A, so like it might have been Jaden when I started and it just got lost.
Yeah, that's all right.
5 letters is a lot.
That's all right.
So here's your safety one.
Yeah. I don't think it's like a thing I'm happy about, but
And you think he's more of a box guy?
yeah, probably. I think like his best. If you look at like a college role, like that star position where they're kind of like a hybrid linebacker safety, like roaming the middle of the field and then can come downhill. I think that's kind of how I see him.
Yeah, I have on one of my notes, doesn't accelerate particularly well. So, I think that kind of limits him a little bit. Definitely not an Antoine Winfield type where you can trust him to be that center fielder.
Right.
So, yeah, I project him in kind of a similar role. I saw that there were some bad angles he took, which I'm always critical of. I mean, especially if you're going to be a box guy,
right?
You got to have good angles.
Got to tackle.
Yeah. So I think he was my safety 8.
Woo. Jeez.
Safety 7. So yeah. But
that
I mean, after the top 3 for me, I do not like the safety class.
I don't either. I got a day 3 guy that I like for like he has special teams value, and a depth piece, but that's about it.
Let's see. So you started with your number 1.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Okay. That's my bad.
Oh no, it's all good. I mean, this whole class is rough. They could all be 5s as far as I'm concerned.
True.
I like my top 2, but there are flaws.
Yeah. All right. Who's your 1?
My number 1 is Tyler Nubin from Minnesota.
He's my 2. His testing knocked him down a little bit.
Right. I was bummed about that because I thought he looked good on tape.
Yeah, that was a bummer for sure. Because he was like, I think he was probably not. I don't want to say clear cut, but he was probably the favorite to be safety 1 prior to all that.
I think he definitely was. He's got great ball skills. I think he looks really good in coverage.
Right.
He is more that center fielder type. But when you're going to test like that, I don't feel comfortable putting you in that position.
Yeah, 3.67 RAS overall, 4.59 40-yard dash. Bad agilities, bad jumps. The best thing about him is his height. So, not super great.
Yeah, and what did Kyle Hamilton test? I know he ran slow, but I think he tested well. Because I remember a couple of years ago that was a thing. Everyone was down on Kyle Hamilton, but that's only because he ran a 4.6 40. Overall, he was a 9.33 RAS. So, I mean, that's brutal for Nubin.
%.
Yeah, so I mean, I still like the tape. He's still my safety 1.
Sure.
But the athletic testing was a huge letdown, and it made me concerned. There's some, a little bit of a flag there.
Yeah, but I mean, in terms of like on-field tape, it's pretty good.
Yeah, I still really like him. I'd be happy if the Bucks got him, but I mean, you already have Antoine. I don't I think they're looking for more of a developmental guy, and Newbin wouldn't be that. I think he's going to go too high to be in that category, even with his poor testing.
Yeah, I don't think a day 1 or 2 safety, I think, is like doomsday scenario. I'm not even kidding.
Yeah, I think Bucks would definitely be going day 3.
You need to look at day 3. You can't. Yeah, I don't think a top 3 round safety is in the cards for the Bucks.
Yeah, unless it's my 3rd ranked guy who I think is more of a nickel.
Okay.
But let's go to your 2 first before we get there. It was Newbin.
My two is Tyler Newbin.
Okay.
Yeah. So.
Okay, I'll go right on to my 2. My number 2 was Cam Kitchens.
Yeah, he's my 3. That testing is god awful though.
Another one, yeah, and I didn't think he looked like a bad athlete on film, just like Newbin.
I'm with you.
The one thing I will say is I see him as more of a box safety who can do things in coverage, but he can cheat in coverage and he can get burned with it. But when he cheats and it pays off, he's got great ball skills. He moves really well. He's a big-time hitter. He's a tackler. I think in terms of what the modern day strong safety is, I think he's a perfect example of what it should be. Ball skills and physicality.
Yeah,
fluidity.
Yeah, the fluidity thing, I don't know what that testing makes me question it. I don't think this is someone you can play on the back end because of that. And I know it doesn't really show up on tape, but I feel like more often than not when someone tests like this and then you're like, oh, it didn't look like that on tape. It could just be that he is a NFL caliber player playing against insurance salesmen.
And that's possible, but I do think he has more coverage skills than, say, a Ryan Neal, where if you, or you're doing something creative and you put him in the back end for one play and he's, alone back there, you feel okay with that.
Sure. I think that's fine. I think I'm much more intrigued with him coming forward than going back.
Yes, definitely.
So.
I won't call him Cam Chancellor, but he is that physical box presence.
Yeah, I'm very much so worried about him getting beat deep.
Yeah, so again, strong safety. He's not the Antoine Winfield type.
Yes,
he's not the Ed Reed type.
Correct.
But for what I think the strong safety is, I think he can be really good. Just, like you said, limit his exposure and coverage.
Yeah, 100%. That's fine. He is my 3. So.
All right, well, I guess I'll just roll right on to my 3.
Yeah, go for it.
All right. Is your 4 Javon Bullard?
My 4 is Javon Bullard.
All right, I'm gonna let you talk about this one because he's my 3.
Sure, that works. I can get some screen time here or some of the airway time here. I think this is your nickel guy. I think he's tough. The athleticism is what do you test? I before I speak, I need to look.
I'll pull it up while you.
Yeah, thank you. Javon Bullard.
He tested at a 8.24.
Yeah, so he gives you that athleticism that you want to play in the secondary, 4.47 40-yard dash, all that, all the good stuff. The big thing against him is the height, which definitely is not great as a corner sometimes, but at the same time, if you're putting him in the nickel and you give him some help from a safety over top, that's going to help. But for his size, what he brings to the table, the dude is a competitor. He's tough. He's gritty. If like motor, like it is for running back, was a trait for safeties, he would be a 10. Big fan of Javon Bullard in terms of what he can bring from an attitude perspective and just from a talent perspective as well.
Yeah, I fully agree. He's a nickel. He's 5'10", but he's also 200 pounds. So he's got that thickness to play inside and fill versus the run.
It's not like he's going to get pushed over.
No. I actually see a lot of Jordan Whitehead to him. Just flies up, makes plays. He's got some skills in coverage. He's more nickel than Whitehead is.
Right.
But just that enforcer playmaker kind of role. I think he's going to be a real asset to a locker room somewhere.
Yeah, I like it.
Okay. After that, I could see 100 different guys being safety 5 because it just drops off a cliff for me.
Yeah, it's not great. This is where it's rough. So
Yeah.
who is your 5?
Even looking at it in order, I still couldn't tell you. I like Oladipo from Oregon State. Tyler Owens is a super good athlete who I would love on special teams.
I don't like Oladipo.
I think I don't like any of these guys really, but I think he's a solid box safety who's not super athletic.
Sure. Yeah, I think a box safety that isn't super athletic is like a bad linebacker.
Yeah, he kind of is.
So that's just someone I'm not really willing to throw or like invest into. I think if my 5 is going to be Cole Bishop from Utah.
I was going to ask you about him.
Yeah, did you not watch him?
I did watch him, and I hated him.
Really? What were your? He's definitely not someone I'm like, yeah, this guy's great. Like I've seen a lot of people be like, Cole Bishop is my guy in the safety class, and I don't understand why.
So Cole Bishop tested extremely well, a 9.88.
Yeah.
When I watched him, I thought he was running through mud. He looked like a terrible athlete.
Okay, I disagree. I saw the athleticism, but I think he's an athlete playing football. I don't think he really knows what he's doing.
Pull him up. So I had big dude, 6'2", 207.
Yeah.
How'd that match up to his actual measurements? Pretty much the same. So 6'2", 206.
Right.
Seems high. See, I have the exact opposite. I thought he seemed high IQ, always around the ball, but does not look like a twitched up athlete and is not a good tackler.
I definitely saw the athleticism, the tackling for sure. I was reading the wrong report. Okay, no. I still see the athleticism for sure. The athleticism.
Well, it matches the testing, so
yeah. No, I saw
maybe I need to go back and rewatch him.
I do think he's a solid in terms of like he's in the right position.
Yeah, I always found him to be around the ball.
Yeah, I mean that's something that it's funny because it's like that's good, of course, right? Mm-hmm. But is it sustainable?
And does it even matter if he can't tackle?
Right. If it's like it's almost like he goes for the ball all the time. You know those plays. You know what? You know those plays that it's like everyone's like, "Oh, just tackle him," but he goes for the strip. I could see Cole Bishop being one of those guys.
Did you watch who was I looking at? Did you watch Dadrian Taylor Demerson?
I did not. Isn't he a freak athlete?
I've seen a lot of people who I really respect really high on him. Okay. I started watching him. I didn't really get a chance to finish his evaluation, but he's another one who did not take good angles and run support.
Okay. Yeah.
So I have an incomplete evaluation on him, so I couldn't really speak too much on him.
Yeah, bad angles are not great, but
they're a real turnoff.
Yeah. He's really rangy, right?
Yeah, he seems like a pretty good athlete.
Yeah. I do like rangy safeties, so that's nice. But yeah, I'm just not super high on the safety class. I think if you need a safety, like a good one, you're not gonna really find one. Like a starter, I mean, you're not gonna really find one. But I think you can find a couple good depth pieces and like the later rounds who can contribute on special teams.
Yeah, I mean, if I were to hitch my wagon to one in this class, and just from a pure Bucks perspective,
sure,
it would be Tyler Owens.
Sure.
And Tyler Owens, the two things about him: one, he's not good. He's not a good safety.
Right.
But two, he's a great athlete.
Yeah.
And Todd Bowles can mold defensive backs like no one else. So
Yeah.
if I'm looking for a special teams guy or someone who's developmental and I can just give him to Todd Bowles and mold him, I'm going to take a flyer on Tyler Owens late in the draft.
Yeah. I think if you're looking early day 3, I like Malik Mustafa. Versatile guy, plays all over, good athlete, strong. I think that's someone that you could look at in like round 4 and be like, okay. And then I think late day 3, I've mocked him to the Bucks before. Akeem Dent from Florida State.
He's one that's interesting to me. Yeah.
Yeah. The dude is a gamer. He's a competitor. He's not afraid to, he doesn't have the makeup of a big, strong safety, but he plays like one. I know for a fact that he was the ringleader in terms of calling plays and making sure people were in the right spot of that Florida State defense. I know his football IQ is through the roof, truly. And I think there's, he tested a lot better than people thought. I think there's a 4.45 number going around. That's his low run. His fastest was like either a 4.38 or a 4.41. I can't remember. So he's a good athlete, and I see immediate special teams value with him.
Yeah, I think if there's one player who might be actually good but is projected to go day 3, it's probably Dent.
Yeah, 100%. And I don't even know, like, he was on a top 30 visit with Green Bay, right? He has visits with the Dolphins in Jacksonville. I think he's like, right now, it's more likely he goes UDFA.
Maybe. I know. I round 6 and 7 are so funky.
Yeah, he's absolutely in play in those rounds. That's like where he becomes alive.
Yeah, and I'd be interested in that. He's one I'm interested in.
Me too. Florida guy. And look, when I tell you smart player, I mean smart player. This guy is intelligent.
All right, let's get off safeties because
please. I really don't like this safety class.
No. I like a couple of linebackers. I do not love this safety class at all.
I like Akeem Dent.
Let's talk corners.
Yeah.
So we're going to do top 8.
Yep.
So let me pull up my board here.
I'm glad we both had Cooper DeJean as a corner.
Oh, yes, definitely.
Because there's a lot of safety projection right now.
And, I think that's a good thing. I think he can do it. I think he's just super versatile. Yeah. I think he can play corner, safety, nickel. You just line him up and he can play.
I'm with you.
Okay. So who is your 8? Let's start at the bottom and work our way. Or do you want to start at the top and work down?
Let's start at the bottom.
Okay.
My 8. My 8 is TJ Tampa.
Okay.
He has a really like wiry frame, but he's super fluid. I just think he's a bit sloppy right now. Loud feet, they're chopping, but I don't think they're super quick. I think he's quick, but I don't think he's like concise. That's the word I'm looking for, concise. I think he wastes a lot of movement and could be trimmed down. I think he projects to a starting outside corner eventually, but I think it might take like a year or 2.
See, I found Tampa to be a little bit tight in the hips.
Okay.
He is my number 10, so he's not super far off.
Yeah.
But I like, he's a big corner. I think in terms of mold, I think he can do a lot of what Carlton Davis can do.
Yeah.
I don't think he'll be that kind of player, but just as like a prototype.
Yeah, sure.
So I thought I'd be more impressed with him because I'd heard, some potential first round buzz to him.
Right.
But I just didn't love the way he moved on film in terms of his hips and being able to flip. And
it just looks off, right?
It does.
Like maybe I recognized it and saw it as like wasted foot movement, but maybe you saw it as clunky ear hips, right? Like, but it just looks off.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but I don't think he's a bad player. I think he's going to go round 2. This is a really good corner class. So even these lower ranked guys, I think, are going to go top 50-ish.
Yeah, I'm with you. I am with you. Who is your 8?
Okay. My 8 is a guy I know I'm a little higher on than a lot of people,
Okay.
but he's a similar mold, and that's Cam Hart from Notre Dame.
I haven't watched him.
Ooh, I like him. He's who I wanted TJ Tampa to be.
Okay.
When I watched them both, this is what I thought I would get with TJ Tampa.
Okay.
But big body, he's 6'3", and he can body people. He moves really well. I think he's everything I would want in a big body corner. So if the Bucs were still running that, press man heavy scheme that they were with Carlton Davis, this would be the name I'd be advocating for on day 2. They're not running that as much anymore, so I think I'm out on him for the Bucs, but the player I like in general.
I'm just like, as you're running down what he's good at, I'm rolling through like Senior Bowl clips, and I definitely like what I see. Now, obviously,
he had a really good Senior Bowl.
Yeah, obviously those are 1v1, so you got to take it with a grain of salt. But yeah, he looks like really, really good man coverage in these, so I'll definitely check him out.
Yeah, highly recommend. I think he's going to be a steal for someone.
Yeah, there you go. On to 7s, correct?
Yes.
Correct here. My 7 is Ennis Rakestraw Jr.
Okay, he's my 6.
He's your 6. Perfect. There we go.
Yep.
Look at that. Obviously, Chris Abrams-Drain, his teammate, had the accolades this season. He had all the picks and the what's the award called? The Jim Thorpe semifinalist award and all that. I think Rakestraw is better. I think he's really smart. I think this is like day one starting nickel level corner. I think he's really, really smart and really, really good. And I think he fits that kind of, you said the Bucs are kind of getting away from that Carlton Davis press man mold. I think he fits what they're trying to transition into.
Yeah, I think he'd be a good fit for the Bucs.
Yeah.
I don't think he ran super well. I'm going to pull up his testing.
I think you're correct, which is why he's down here, because the next guy did not run well.
Let's see. I spelled his name wrong. That will not help me. But
I can pull it up.
He was a 4.79 RAS, so not great.
Not great.
5'11", 183, 4'5", 440. Yeah, just very average athlete.
Yeah, and I do like the height and weight hold a lot in terms of the RAS. Like, they're important. So that's definitely going to be a big factor in this low score. And for someone that you kind of look at as a nickel, you can play with that. I think that speed. Mm-hmm. I think that's playable. I like a day 2 guy for sure. But I'd say that's okay.
One thing I will say about Rakestraw, he has just this ultimate pit bull mentality. He is fearless up there.
He's a dog. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, he plays with reckless abandonment in regards to his body, and he's been nicked up a little bit because of it. Right. But coaches are going to love the way he competes.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's definitely one of the guys that's like talking to a coach, and they're just like, yeah, this guy loves football,
Mm-hmm.
There's always one of those guys where they're like, does he really love the sport? Yeah, he loves the sport. But you said he's
my 6.
He's your 6. So I had him as my 7. He's your 6. So who's your 7?
My 7 is Alabama's Kool-Aid McKinstry.
Okay. Probably a lot lower than people have him.
Yeah. I know some people have him as CB1, which is way rich for me.
Yeah, that's really rich.
But my thing with him, he's good in man coverage. He's not bad in zone. He's very solid. I like what I see. He's regarded as very intelligent. I just don't see a super twitched up athlete, which is something I really want in a corner.
Yeah, I'm 100% with you. I think his ceiling is very limited, but his floor is very high.
Yeah, and if there's one position that I need athleticism, it's corner, because it's all reactive. Right. So you have to be a better athlete than the man across from you, because he knows what's happening and you have to react.
Right.
So, I mean, that's just something I really value in a corner, and he just doesn't have enough of it.
Yeah, no, I think I'm with you. He is my 5. So the next guy that I'm going to talk about, I'm 100% in agreement with the athleticism. Kamari Lassiter.
Okay, he was my 9.
Okay, so he just missed out.
Mhm.
I think his tape's very, very good. The athleticism sucks.
Worse than expected.
Like, it is so bad.
Yeah, that was a real bummer. Man,
Yeah.
these DBs did not test well in general.
No, they did not. They did not. But I like the tape on him, so I'm still willing to put him at my 6. But that significantly knocked him down.
Ooh, man.
Yeah.
A 4.64 40-yard dash. That
Not
is
great.
brutal.
It's not great. I almost wonder, do you just put him at safety at that point?
I don't know. He might just be a nickel only because his
Yeah,
shuttles were really good. His agility was really good. But, man, he's just nickel.
Slow. It's slow. And you can't, have him running with anybody. He has to be just short zoned.
Yeah, has to be his own player.
Yeah, which is tough.
So, yeah, that is what dropped him for me because I did like his tape, but, man, you can't be that slow.
No, not at all. Definitely not. But, yeah, that was my 6, right? Yeah, Kool-Aid's my 5. So who is your 6? No, your 5.
My 6 was Rakestraw. My 5 is Mikey Sanders, still from Michigan.
All right.
Do you make your top?
He should have. Oh, I didn't rank him, so that's my bad.
Okay.
He would definitely be right above Kool-Aid.
Okay, so pretty high on him too.
Yeah. Knock. Who was my 8 again? I can't.
TJ Tampa.
Yeah, knock TJ Tampa. Knock everyone below Kool-Aid down. So yeah, Sanderson's my 5.
Yeah, Sam still, he's a nickel primarily guy, but he is highly intelligent, highly competitive, just an absolute dog. Playmaker. He had 6 interceptions this year, and this is only his second year playing corner. He was a receiver when he came to Michigan, and he played time, for multiple years at receiver before switching.
Yep.
So he's still, really mastering the nuances of the game, but he's so smart. Other players were interviewed on opposing offenses, and they talked about him calling out their plays. He is in their playbook. He's in their head, and man, Todd Bowles is going to love a guy like that.
Some could blame Connor Stallions for that.
That's true. That's true, but Junior Colson wasn't calling out plays like that.
You're correct. Either way, you can see that this guy played wide receiver. His route recognition and the jumps he makes on balls, it's very, very clear that this guy knows how a receiver operates.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you definitely see that receiver background.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm a big fan because he's also pretty feisty. I've said it before. He reminds me a lot of Dax Hill in terms of how he plays in the nickel.
I think Justin Mello from the Draft Network just had a good interview with him.
Oh, nice.
And it was cool because he had just did a top 30 visit with Tampa, and he talked about his experience going to visit the Bucs. Talked about how the staff treated him like family, and he felt the same way he felt when he visited Michigan for the first time. So he had a lot of really good things to say about the Buccaneers, and I think the Buccaneers are really going to be in on him.
Awesome. Like to hear that because he's a really good player.
All right, so let's move up to number 4, and I think these are kind of the big 4 of the draft.
Yeah, I have Terrion Arnold.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So he's my number 1 actually.
Ooh, you're 1. Wow. Mm-hmm. Wow. I like his athleticism. I just think he needs to clean it up a bit.
Mm-hmm.
Arnold.
Yeah, let me pull up my scouting report on him.
I'm I know I'm not really elaborating, but that kind of is just how it is. I think he's good. I think the athleticism obviously gives him a really, really high ceiling in both man and zone. I just think, in terms of positioning and cleaning up some of his zone work, I think there's some room to improve. I will say top 4 first-round players, all of them.
Oh yeah, I definitely. Well,
All of them.
there's one I'm fringe on, but I'm high on
Okay.
him.
They're all top first round players for me. These top 4.
I think they should be. I think there's one that's going to be borderline.
I feel like I know who it is for you, but
I think you probably do. He's my number 2, but I think the NFL is going to be a little lower on him.
sure.
But yeah, I really like his size, 6 foot and almost 200. Great feet, changes direction really well. Decent long speed. He's not a super fast guy, but he's fine. Good ball skills, willing tackler. A lot of things I really value.
Yeah.
I don't disagree. He could clean up some things, but I think the talent is there, and I think if you put him in the right situation, like if he were to go to Philadelphia or if he were to go to Oakland or I think he's just going to thrive.
Yeah, I think like an aggressive play style is going to fit him best, where he can play right next to a receiver.
Yeah. I think he's fine off ball, but I think he can be really good pressing, getting in a receiver's face.
Yep, I'm with you. I'm definitely with you. So, who is your 4?
My 4 is Cooper DeJean.
Oh, he's your 4. Okay.
He is.
He's my 3.
And okay, I really like him. I mean, like you said, a first round player. I love that he can be a safety. He can be a nickel. He can be an outside guy. I think he does it all. Athleticism checks the box. Ball skills, playmaking. It all checks the boxes.
Yes.
I think he's a little bit more of a zone guy than I like him in man.
Which is where I think that safety projection comes from.
Yeah. Which I think he'd be okay in man. Like if you put him in man, I don't think he's going to be a liability.
Right.
But I do think he'll be better in a zone system, which is why I think he'll be great for the Bucs.
Yeah.
But I think that is what brings him down just a little bit compared to these other guys. I just think he's a little bit more scheme specific than the rest.
Sure, that's fine. You definitely need a creative defensive coach to use him in his best ways. But luckily for the Bucs, that's exactly what they have. I echo everything you said. Elite athlete, really smart, always in the right position, never really messes up. He has he's a returner too, right?
Yeah, a really good one.
Yeah, he's a really good returner. So something the Bucs haven't had in a long time. So you could maybe chuck him back there, see what you got. But I think like even if he is a safety, you can play him in the slot. You can play him on the outside. You can have him carry tight ends through the seam. Like you could do anything that like a corner would do or a safety could do with him. So it's very unique.
Yeah, and depending on where he goes, I would not be surprised if he was the best corner in this draft.
Sure.
It's going to be a lot on landing spot and how he's used.
Yeah.
But talent-wise, I think he's got all the tools.
Yeah, I'm with you. I'm 100% with you. Okay, so he was my 3. So who is your 3? Oh, no. Yes.
Yeah. My top 3 are all really close. My number 3 is Quinyon Mitchell from Toledo.
Ooh, he's my 1.
Okay. And he has great tape, and he was great at the Senior Bowl.
Yep.
You talk about ball skills. He had like 18 deflected passes this year.
Yeah, it's crazy.
That's absurd.
Yeah, it's nuts.
But he didn't have a ton of interceptions, I don't think.
Yeah, it's he didn't play a ton of man. That's the big thing.
No, he didn't. But he did well in it at the Senior Bowl when asked to do so.
Right. Obviously, there's like the Senior Bowl. You take everything there with a grain of salt because it's a lot of just one-on-ones. But he did. But with those ball skills, I get he doesn't have the picks, but the PBU means you were in the right position and you made the right play.
Right.
But
it is a huge discrepancy there. 18 passes deflected and 1 interception.
It's definitely insane, which is, you got to come away with takeaways. But, I mean, I think that could be resolved with hitting the jugs machine. Because if you're in the right position that frequently, you're really, really good at what you do.
Mm-hmm, agreed. And I think he's going to be a top 15 player in this draft.
Yeah.
But, I think there is also the factor that he did play in the MAC, and that, those things don't matter. Like Khalil Mack played in the MAC, and he was a slam dunk top 5 player in his draft, even before he had a Hall of Fame career.
Yeah.
Those things is you trust the tape. Kevin Byard came out of like Middle Tennessee, and he was easily a first round player,
right?
Just based on tape. But Mac quarterbacks, they do leave you wanting more, and I think that's part of why he had some deflections.
Oh, absolutely.
So, as much as I agree with you, he was very often in the right spot, and he was very good in coverage. I think that number is a little bit elevated just based on the level of quarterbacks he went against.
Of course, that is 100% a reasonable thing to say because having that many PBUs, not every single one is because you made a tremendous play. Obviously, there are going to be some that were gifted to you, but that's fine. It's going to be hard for me to see that athleticism and see what he can do to get in right position to be like, yeah, this guy can't play man.
And 18 is an insane number.
It's crazy.
Like, Terrion Arnold had 12. Nate Wiggins had 6.
And 12
Cooper DeJean had 5.
12 is insane, too. 12 is nuts.
Yeah. Kool-Aid McKinstry had 7. Like, these are the best, and they're like 5, 6, and 7.
Yeah.
So, 18 is bonkers good.
Yeah, it's hard to come by, that's for sure. So he's your 3. He was my 1. Sounds like we have the same 2.
Nate Wiggins?
Yes, sir. Nate Wiggins.
Yes. In coverage, love Nate Wiggins.
Dude, guy's a stud.
Just Revis Island-esque in coverage.
Yep. With like top-notch competitiveness and motor.
Yeah. Let me pull up his RAS. What did he test?
Sure. I mean, he ran a 4.28. I know that. Yeah, so
that's really good.
That'll play, I think.
6'1", 4.28, and
36 broad or 36 vert, 10.7 broad.
Yeah, didn't do agilities.
Yeah.
Here's the only thing. 170 pounds.
Yeah. Yeah. And I know, and as soon as you said, I don't think the NFL, I don't know how the NFL will feel about him. Like when we're kind of previewing who your 2 was, I knew exactly who it was. And my rebuttal is Emmanuel Forbes.
I agree. And he was, what, the same size, 170? Maybe a little less?
And Nate Wiggins is way better than Emmanuel Forbes.
Way better. But the thing about Nate Wiggins is he's also, and I don't want to say this, but he's also a little bit soft.
Oh, I disagree.
Does not want the smoke and run coverage.
I disagree. I think his maybe in the box, maybe a run like that, but the dude will chase down a guy all the way down the field. He did it multiple times.
Yeah. Pursuit is good. Like the motor, the effort is absolutely good.
Sure.
But when you talk about, hey, there's a tight end coming right at you, take him on, or there's a guard, blow him up, or there's a running back with a head of steam, tackle him, it can be a little rough.
That's probably, I understand that. It's probably because he's tiny.
Right. He's very lean.
Which is definitely, that can pose some issues. But when you, like, man, he's really good in coverage.
Really, really good.
Yeah, it's insane.
So, I mean, I really like him. Obviously, he's both of our CB2.
Yeah.
I think some teams will be turned off by parts of that aspect. Like, I was talking to Russell Brown, who covers the Lions for Lions Wire.
Yeah.
And, just talking about if he was a Dan Campbell guy or not, someone who's gritty and tough. And I just don't see him being a fit for a team like that.
No, he's definitely more finesse than physicality.
But he will hit a receiver. Like, the receiver goes up to catch the ball. He's not afraid to hit that guy. Yeah. He's not unwilling to hit. But there's a different mentality, blowing up a run versus hitting a receiver.
No, I'm with you. I'm with you there. I'm definitely with you. Any day 3 guys you want to highlight, like we did for safety?
Oh, let me.
Yeah, sorry to throw it on you there, or just anyone.
Oh, no, you're good. You're good.
We didn't mention. Doesn't have to be day 3.
You mentioned Chris Abrams Drain. I think he could be a good fit for the Bucs.
Sure.
Nickel guy. I think he'd vibe really well in Tampa.
Yeah.
Andrew Phillips is a guy I like.
He's
I
good.
know the Bucks have met with him.
Yep. Yes. I'm also looking. I love the Florida State defense this year. Renardo Green, stud. I don't know if you watched him.
I haven't watched him, but I've heard good things.
I'd watch Renardo Green. He's a very good player. DJ James is kind of that same mold as Wiggins, just not as fast, but really light. Someone like that. Anyone way down there?
Oh.
Did you watch Jarvis Brownlee?
I have not.
Okay, I haven't either.
I've heard good things. He was a Senior Bowl guy.
Yeah, he had a really good week. So, but yeah, the strength of the class is definitely in the top. I think it falls off a little bit after like round 3 area, but there are still some solid names.
Oh, I've got one who he's a late day guy.
Sure.
Beanie Bishop from West Virginia.
Yeah, I have not watched him.
He's a nickel, but I really liked watching him more than I expected to.
Okay, I'll check him out. But yeah, that's gonna wrap up our talks about positions this week. We're gonna JT. I think you have your screen share up. Am I correct?
Yeah, let me pull it up.
All right. So while he's pulling this up, I'm gonna preview it. This is a mock draft using the mock draft database simulator, just a different one than we typically use. We're gonna do a bit of an alternating draft, kind of what would we do, right? So this is not predictive. Man, there are some names in this one. That's tough. This is not predictive. Our predictive ones are going to be next week with a special guest. You'll hear more about that later. But this is a what would we do mock draft. We're going to alternate, like I said. JT, how do you want to do rock paper scissors? Oh wait, you can't really see me.
I'll let you go first. You take the first pick.
That works.
So I'm gonna start it over because there was a lot of names.
Yeah,
that one felt unrealistic.
That was insane. Okay. All right. Okay. How are we looking here? Well, I see Kamari Lassiter in the first round, so I don't know if this one's super realistic either.
Yeah. Honestly, I'm not loving any of the simulators this year, how they mesh with my board.
I agree. Or just I think the board's going to look like.
Yeah.
Okay.
So a couple of names.
Yeah, so I think the big one there is Newton, Johnny Newton there in the middle at 27 there.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's the one I pick.
Okay.
Pretty much.
So that's that pass rusher the Bucks are looking for. It's not an edge, but he's definitely a pass rusher.
It's not an edge, but he is good enough at rushing the passer that I think it's okay.
Yeah, I would love Johnny Newton. We've talked about it. He's the best defensive tackle in the class, maybe the best defensive player in the class.
Yep. I think we're just gonna reject every trade in this one. Quick and easy. JT, you were up here at 57.
All right. Well, I'm gonna check interior offensive line, see who's still around. Okay, some good names I like. BB is one of my favorites. Haynes is good. Mahogany is still on the board. Dominic Pooney, I think, is going to be a very natural fit in Tampa.
Yep.
Who we got for receiver? Corley, Leggett. Those two aren't my favorite. So a lot of the receivers I would have wanted are already off the board.
Yeah.
So there was an early receiver run. Edge, Marshawn Nealand, I think he'll be in play for Tampa, but we already went pass rusher in the first round. What about Samerstil? Is he still there? Mikey Samerstil is off the board, so I am going to go interior. And I'm going to take Christian Haynes because I think he fits what the Bucks are looking for more than BB. I think he's more athletic, can get more in space, really good pass blocker. I don't love his anchor as much as I do BB. But I think with what they want to do, I think Haynes is more of a natural fit.
I love that. I'm a big fan of Christian Haynes. I think he's his ceiling's super high, so I'm a fan of that pick. All right.
We're back on the clock.
We're here at 89. Can you click that receiver tab for me?
Yes, I can.
Thank you. All right. Scroll down just a hair.
So we got...
No, Ricky Pearsall's gone. Okay. That's what I was kind of looking for there. Go to the tight ends.
Okay, tight end. Ooh, there's some good ones.
That is tempting. All right, I want to peek at the linebackers and then the running backs as well. Oh,
So it looks like all the big linebackers are off the board.
Yeah, I don't think I'd take any of them.
My
there.
guy Edifon is still there, but this might be a little early for me.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of the linebackers right now. And then let's see the running backs.
Running backs.
Okay.
So the top guys are gone, but a lot of the big names are still there.
Is Marshawn Lloyd gone?
It looks like Marshawn Lloyd's off the board already.
Okay, that's a bummer. That was the one I was looking for. So I think we are going to go back to that tight end spot.
Okay.
And I think I'm.
Who are you going to pick, though? There's two we really like.
There's two we really like. Do I want the upside or the one I think is like a instant impact player?
I know who I would go with, but I'll let you make the decision.
So I talked about it in our tight end episode. We have Cade Otton, who I think is a bit more of a receiver than a blocker right now. And I think there's a guy on the board that I think right now is a bit more of a blocker than a receiver, but can get to that level of receiver that is a game changer. And I am going to draft Theo Johnson.
Yeah, that's where I would have went to. Great blocker, great athlete, huge potential.
Yeah, I love Ben Sinnott. I think he's an awesome player. I just think the upside with Theo Johnson is, 10 RAS that's hard to come by.
Yeah, they can't get any better. That's the peak.
Yeah. We're back on the JT. You're back on the clock here. Just a couple picks later. What are we looking at?
All right. Well, I'm going back to receiver because I want a pass catcher. Not that we didn't just get one with Theo, but I'm going for one of my guys. I'm taking Jalen McMillan.
Yeah, I like it a lot. The Washington guys this year are all really good.
Yeah, slot receiver. He could be that Chris Godwin replacement. And, slot receiver is such a valuable position in the McVay offense, the Cooper Kupps, the Puka Nakuas. I think his skill set in this offense would mesh really well.
Yeah. Okay. Go to corner.
Oh, there's Ronaldo Green.
Ronaldo Green's right there. All right, let's see the safeties as well.
We just talked about this. There's not a safety we want.
Not here. And then let me see the edge rushers. Okay, don't love it either. Okay, so
Jackson Hunt.
Yeah, I think I am gonna go with Ronaldo Green here. Get some depth at that. He's a corner. At the corner position, I think he's a pretty well-rounded player from a Florida State defense that's really talented this year.
The simulator loves that. They gave it an A+.
Man, look at that. Thank you, simulator.
Shout out Mock Draft Database.
Yeah.
All right, so I'm getting the big jump. I'm jumping down to 220.
Yeah, this one's a fat one. That's for sure.
Okay, so who are some of the big names left? Gabe Hall could be interesting, but we already got Johnny Newton, so I think he's out. I haven't got our running back yet.
Yep.
This might be a good time to do that. Looks like my guy, Kamani Vidal, is off the board. He's that late round guy who I really like. Rasheed Ali might be a good option. Let's see, what else we need? Let me look at... I might double dip at interior, but there's no one here who I really love. Linebacker. I'm going to go with Michael Barrett, I think.
There you go.
One of my guys, special teams, coverage skills. I like him.
Yeah. So what are we going to now? The 7th?
Seventh. Yep, last pick.
Last pick. All right, go to running backs. Oof. Okay. All right. Bucks are getting a running back in this one. I don't like those.
Yeah, we're getting into the 300s. It's not great.
Yeah. Go to safeties. I'm going to pick up my guy, Akeem Dent. Someone that we both talked about a little bit. He's going to be way down. You might have to search his name.
There he is.
Oh, not way down. Sweet. That's probably not graded super high, but um, I don't really
Yeah,
care.
they gave it a C.
I don't really care. I think that's a good pick. I think in the 7th round, if you can get instant impact special teams value, it's a win. Um, so,
Those last 3 picks, those are probably the 2 best defenses in college football.
yeah, absolutely. 100%. So just going top to bottom, at 26, I made the pick of Johnny Newton. Day one, starting defensive lineman who can just wreak havoc. With the 2nd round pick, JT picked Christian Haynes, a really high upside athlete at the interior offensive line from UConn. On the first of our 2 third-round picks, I picked Theo Johnson from Penn State, a really athletic tight end who has the profile of a really good receiver, but right now is a better blocker. With our second of 2 third-round picks, JT picked one of his favorites in Jalen McMillan, who's a very efficient. He gets the job done kind of slot receiver. With the 4th round pick, I picked Renardo Green from Florida State, depth corner who can provide some spot starts and get some significant snaps if you need. JT, talk about Michael Barrett a little bit because I watched him not enough.
Michael Barrett, he's more of that coverage linebacker. He was a safety in high school, a lot of special teams experience. There were times where I thought he might have been the better linebacker between him and Colson.
Yeah,
that's not where he landed in my rankings, but there were times where he looked really good. He was a very solid player in the middle of that defense.
Sure. So you get the foil to the thumper that is, oh my gosh, his name escapes me.
Is it KJ?
KJ Britt, thank you.
The slowest man alive, according to Todd Bowles.
According to Todd Bowles. And then to round out the draft, I drafted Akeem Dent with the last pick with the Bucs last pick in the 7th round. Really intelligent safety from Florida State, good athlete who provides special teams value on day one. So, in a room that's pretty shallow, might I add.
Yeah, definitely want a depth safety. Need to find one.
Yep. That is going to do it for this rendition of the Creamsicle Chronicles podcast. We always appreciate y'all tuning in and listening. It's always a lot of fun. Next week is the final week before the NFL draft, where it's very exciting stuff. We are going to have a guest, someone that I think JT and I both think is a very bright individual who knows a lot about football. He doesn't cover the Bucs, but it'll provide a nice outside perspective of someone who knows a lot about the draft and can slot players that JT and I might not really think about and provide some different thought patterns. So it'll be really interesting. We'll probably tweet something out in the coming days about who that's going to be. We know who it is, but building up the suspense.
Yeah, I will say, I think he has one of the best up and coming podcasts that's out there right now. Like I really like the show he's a part of.
Yeah, he's a part of a really, really talented group of people that do that show. And we're going to give him as much time as he wants to talk about that because it is truly fantastic.
Starting to get a little hype too. I think he was featured on NFL Network or Pat McAfee the other day.
I think he's been featured on a lot of stuff in the last year or so. He's doing a lot of really good work.
So we're bringing in some sizzle for this next show.
Yeah, we're very excited to have him on, and we'll tell you all about that in just a couple days. But other than that, y'all take it easy. Thanks for watching, and as always, go Bucs.
Go Bucs.